I feel like diet culture sets you up to never be good enough.
Did you burn 500 calories on the treadmill today? No? Me either.
I mean, anybody can sit with us. We're just really not about diet culture.
But literally, happiness doesn't come from a low-calorie, high-intensity life. I actually do like carrots.
I do too. They're my favorite.
Welcome to the Fit Fueled Free podcast.
So basically, diets suck.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 64. I'm Jenna.
I'm Danielle.
And today we are covering Principle 8 in the Intuitive Eating mini-series that we have been going over for the last month or 2 months, I guess now. And this principle is titled Respect Your Body. And so we are going off of the Intuitive Eating book. And so at the beginning of each chapter, there's like a little blurb that kind of intros the chapter. And we've been starting off the podcast episodes reading those. So I'm just going to get us started with the first paragraph of the book, and then we'll talk about it from there. So it says, accept your genetic blueprint. Just as a person with a shoe size of 8 would not expect to realistically squeeze into a size 6, it is equally futile and uncomfortable to have the same expectation about body size. But mostly respect your body so you can feel better about who you are. It's hard to reject the diet mentality if you are unrealistic and critical about your body's size or shape. All bodies deserve dignity.
I just love the idea of body respect.
I do too.
I thought I loved the idea of like love your body, like blah blah blah, which is great. And like
Yeah.
I hope that for people. It may not come to that point for everyone, and also when you're starting out,
Yeah.
that is such a like dramatic and concept that just seems so far away. So I love just respect, because I think that's something we're all taught from a young age, is like have respect for people. So like, what a novel idea. Let's have respect for ourselves. So I think this is my favorite chapter of this book.
Yeah, I agree. I like that too, because I was like, to go from like an eating disorder or hating your body and shaming it to then be told like, oh, love your body. Like that seems like there's no middle ground. It seems like one end of like the spectrum to the other. And so to be able to like meet in the middle and be like, well, you don't have to love everything, and you may not ever, but like you do, and you should respect it. I think it just kind of like maybe personalizes it more and makes it seem like more attainable and manageable for people when they approach it like that.
Yeah, and it's such a great foundation, because the first thing that comes to my mind as we dig into this topic more is that our bodies are not the problem in the first place. So it's really our fat phobic culture that we live in that we use our bodies as a scapegoat, because we're told we're not trying hard enough, or we don't fit in various ways because of our size, and just all these things that make it seem like our body is the problem. And we're not told that we're bad people because of it, even though that's internalized. It's like literally like our body. And just thinking about the heaviness of that and how much more gentle of an approach we need to take for ourselves. It's just such a like, okay, where are my words? Like it's a good thing to take a step back from and just think about like what's really going on here. And I think that makes it a little bit easier to start focusing on having respect for like the skin that you were born in and that you live in and keeps you alive.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I like, even with like the fitness aspect, like that's the approach I take all the time. I'm like, if you can shift away from like the weight loss and like using like exercise as a way to punish your body or to like lose a piece of yourself, and instead focus on like, what do I gain from exercise? Like, how can I use exercise as a way to like honor my body for like what it's capable of, like regardless of what it looks like that's just like such a powerful shift that can easily, I mean, not easily, but like it can be made pretty easily if you can just focus on like, what does my body do for me? And
Yeah.
it just can be like the groundwork and like lay, like you said, the foundation to move forward and how you view and feel about your body.
And that stuff can even be more factual too. So I think you're right that it does make
Mhm.
it easy to like start out, which is saying those things that are just baseline facts.
Yeah.
If we can focus on flipping the script to respecting our body instead of constantly trying to change it, it's gonna help shift everything. So
Hmm.
they talk about in this chapter how if you are trying to heal your relationship with food and yet you're over here fighting your body in every sense of like feeling it's not good enough.
Hmm.
And I want to validate that too, because yes, some of it is internalized, but there's also like it's coming from somewhere. This isn't something that we just like make up in our heads. We're not born feeling insecure about our bodies.
Hmm.
We're socialized to feel that way.
Yeah.
And so like that is very much like a real concern. And also when we can think about how it doesn't actually matter like at the end of the day, and we can separate those things, we can all start with practicing that respect. And I think a good definition that was in this chapter is respecting your body means treating your body with dignity while holding the intention of meeting its basic needs. So even if like, what do I even mean by body respect? Like that right there, I think is really powerful to think
Hmm.
about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also liked how in the book, like in the chapter, it said, like, it specifically said, like, as long as you're at war with your body, it's going to be extremely difficult to find peace and have a healthy relationship with your food and your body. And I don't know, the whole like thought of like war, like being at war with your body, like so many of us get stuck, like we're at war with it because we're trying to fight it through exercise. We're trying to like change it, manipulate it through like the amount of like workouts we put it through. We're trying to manipulate and change it with the food that we use, and like whether we restrict or whatever it is, our decisions that we're like making around food. If you can end the war, like it sounds so cliche, but it's like working on that respect is essentially like you waving like the white flag of like
Yeah.
surrender and being like, I'm choosing. And it might be something as silly as you verbalizing like, I'm choosing to not be at war with my body anymore. And just like the power of those words,
Mhm.
I don't know, I just think
Yeah,
it's powerful.
I do too. And that was where my thought was going. I kind of segued there a second ago. But I think that's why intuitive eating gets turned into a diet so often, is because we're trying and we're
Hmm.
also still trying to micromanage what we eat and like make sure we're burning enough
Hmm.
calories, quote unquote. And so we're not actually able to be intuitive if we still think
Hmm.
like, sure, Danielle and Jenna, it's great for you to tell me to eat whatever I want whenever I want it. But if that's like all we're hearing and we're still internalizing fat phobia
Yeah.
and thinking we have to change, then it's not truly being intuitive to your
Yeah.
body.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So, this is a big sticking point, I would
Hmm.
say. And honestly, I think we have to, in a sense, grieve the body that we
Hmm.
want.
Hmm.
That probably looks a bit different for every person, but there definitely is like whatever year we're in, there's the current look.
Yeah.
Um, and right now, I would say it's like having a thick built butt and the skinniest waist possible.
Hmm.
Um, it's like a very exaggerated hourglass shape.
Yeah.
And that's what's current.
Hmm.
And also, there was a commercial for Facetune on Hulu, by the way,
There was.
which is really terrifying. And it said something about several million people using
Are on
that
it.
app. And I thought of that because if you want to look like that, but you don't, Instagram can make you, or any,
Yep.
not Instagram itself, but we can post pictures of ourselves on Instagram that look like that. And so just a reminder, like we always talk about, whatever you see is not always what is real. But also we might not realistically be able to attain the body we think we're supposed to have, or that society holds in the highest regard at this very moment. And so if you want to find peace and try and respect your body, it is normal to go through a process of grieving. Like,
Yeah.
it can be like a lifetime of trying to achieve something, and you just thought if you found this next eating plan, or this next diet, or this next way of working out, or this next professional surgery, whatever it is, you're finally going to get there, and it was going to be this like
Yeah, like an aha
euphoria.
moment.
And if that's really like what we're holding on to, and then you realize like I have to make peace with my body and food, like that is going to be a process of letting go of something that you thought you did in order to be living a fulfilling life. And that sounds really like depressing, and it kind of is, and it's also liberating because we can move past that. And that's not to say that our society is going to catch on to that and suddenly your whole life is going to be different in the ways that someone who exists in a bigger body like experiences the world. That part doesn't go away, but you can work on finding that inner peace, which is, you know, we can work on change for the world, but we have to start with ourselves, I would say. So it's okay to be sad if you can't get what you want. Because I think in the like anti-diet world, it can come across like that sometimes, like, oh, too bad, that's just not what's gonna happen. But like, we understand as humans that there's an expectation what society holds, and it's hard to go against that grain. So yeah, I think that's really all that I have to say, like, before we dive into the action items.
I agree. Let's move on to that.
Okay, cool. So if we can focus on a health at every size approach, that right there can give a lot of respect to our bodies, and that can come from ourselves, but also speaking to healthcare providers, and for yourself personally, seeking healthcare providers who are familiar with HAES. So I think I'll give like a super brief review of really what this means. So HAES stands for Health at Every Size. And we're not saying that every size body is healthy. I think it sounds like that's what that says. You can do some more digging into this. I really would encourage it, actually. But essentially, weight loss is not a behavior. So if you go to the doctor and you have health issues and you're told you need to lose weight to fix your health issues, that's not a behavior. So if you do lose weight as a side effect of taking better care of yourself, if you aren't already, because sometimes you are taking care of yourself and there might actually just be something going on and it has absolutely nothing to do with lack of self-care. That's actually a really big problem in the medical field of things being overlooked because of body sizes. So that's not what I'm talking about. But like, let's say you are not taking great care of yourself. Your doctor is like, lose weight, lose weight. So that is what weight stigma is. That's an example of it, because suddenly we are blamed for something that's going on with ourselves, because we're not good enough, essentially. And really what that does is it causes people to kind of withdraw, and it keeps us from doing the things that we need to do for ourselves. It's not as simple as that, but that is like a direct impact of weight stigma, and that can actually cause blood pressure and cholesterol to increase, like the things that we constantly hear your weight needs to come down to fix.
Yep.
So if you don't believe me, seriously look it up, Google it, and it's really incredible. And there's also no studies that show adverse outcomes of health at every size approach, because this is real. Like, I don't know how to say that. Like, it sounds so wild and people are so resistant, but not focusing on weight loss doesn't ever hurt someone, because that may happen, and there's also a lot of other things going on. And like Jenna said, if we focus on moving our bodies like for a positive reason rather than trying to burn calories, even that right there is completely changing an aspect of your mental health, and that affects our overall body, because your body knows what your brain's telling you. So focusing on HAES is just a super, super big thing, as an overall like cultural approach to health.
Yeah. One of the action steps that I really liked was, there's examples in the book where it says like replace like your instead, like, so instead of saying, for example, like the example the book gave was like, my puffy jaws are disgusting, like replace it with a positive statement. So you could replace it with like a physical positive statement, such as like, okay, like I like my hair. But if you're not even like at a place where you can even talk about like a physical feature that you like or love about yourself, it said replace it with like a respectful statement. So again, we're going back to like, okay, if you can't get to the like the love aspect of things, try and like get to the respect. And so an example was like, okay, so I can't stand the cellulite on my legs, so instead of you focusing on that, you can replace the statement that's respectful and say like, I'm lucky that I have legs that can move. So simple, like little things like that. And that's what I like emphasize so much as well, like on my Instagram and like with my clients and stuff, just like these quick little like mental shifts. Like they seem silly or they seem like they're not going to work, but like the more that you utilize those and like kind of have those tools in your toolbox, then when those constant like flood of like negative thoughts come, you'll have that much more easily like available in your head to be like, oh my gosh, like my legs look horrible in these shorts today. But like you'll know that you've already been practicing your head. Okay, but I'm also proud that these legs like can carry me through a run or can walk me like to work. And so those are just like really simple things that you can do mentally, if you feel like you're like still picking apart or shaming your body.
Yeah, and if you feel like that is hard to believe that that can change, if you think about it in the context of like, we're not born nitpicking our body, we learn that, and it's repeated, like hearing it and telling ourselves that makes us believe that to be true. Like if we didn't come out like that and then we become that, we can undo that
And learn it.
and change our thoughts. Like it's neuroplasticity, like it actually like changes, and it's so cool. Another really super important, these are all really important action items, but another one is to start living the life you think that you have to lose weight for. So many times I've heard stories from people about the reasons that they needed to see a dietitian to lose weight, because they had a trip coming up, or they wanted to start dating, or there was a certain event that they needed to wear an outfit for. And like we talked about that in a whole episode just about like weddings. I think that's a big one that we feel pressured for, but I've even heard like people wanting to go to prom and look, so like it doesn't just happen at weddings. This is all kinds of events. We are trying to look our best for them. And we can't like stop living because of our body size. Like we do, like it happens all the time, but trying to think about what you actually want and value in your life and just doing it. Like, the anticipatory anxiety is likely to be worse than actually going forward with it, and just thinking of like the memories you can build, and you can still like make yourself comfortable in those situations. And yeah, I think it's also important to acknowledge that not all fashion items are going to be available in sizes, and so I get that that puts extra pressure on trying to shrink your body, but my point is that you don't deserve to internalize that and follow through with it. You deserve to exist and enjoy your life at whatever size your body is, like regardless of what's going to happen in the future. So whatever you're feeling about yourself, worth is not going to change because your body changes. Certain things may be more manageable. I'm not discounting that, but self-worth doesn't change for sure. So just like start living. And if that's something that seems too out of hand, start small, like start really small. We do that at work all the time, is challenging people just to like wear a skirt or like wear jeans or something that they're terrified to put on because they think that they don't look good enough in it, and just start exposing yourself to it, and you can work your way up that way.
Yeah. And also, if you're constantly like living for like the next like attainable like thing that you think is going to make you happy, and like that's the only thing that you're determining like your self-worth on, like more times than not it's still going to leave you feeling like unsatisfied. There we go. Because like we're such like so many of us are like we're so driven by like the next thing and like not content with like what we currently have. So I was actually listening to a podcast last night, and it has nothing to do with like body size, but like the principle is still the same. She was talking about how like it was like for people who like are growing their businesses like through Instagram, and she was saying how like so many people correlate their success with their business to like their engagement on Instagram and like how many followers you have. And she was like, okay, so like say like the like epitome of success for like someone running their business through Instagram is like 50,000 followers. She's like, okay, so what happens when you get to 50,000 followers? Like you're still not going to be satisfied with that because like there's the next thing or there's the next number to reach. Like, so even when you think like you're going to get to like whatever it is that you're trying to get to, more likely than not, if that's the only thing that's like filling you up, like it's still not going to be good enough because there's always going to be that person ahead. There's always going to be like that next thing that you're going to be working towards. And it's just like this tumultuous cycle of like, if that's the only thing that's like fueling you, you're never going to be fully satisfied because there's going to always be something more. And so just to kind of like reiterate what you were saying, to like not be looking towards like that next thing to be the thing that you think is going to like fix the problem or even like fix you or make you happy, because if that's the only focus, it probably will not.
Yeah, unless you like have some outrageous life where like every other day you're attaining something wild, that's probably the only way that would be. And that's superficial because I think we can all think of that like fleeting joy we feel when something like super exciting happens for us. Like it only lasts like a little bit of time. Yeah. And then things are going to kind of go back to normal. Like even with like getting married, like we refer to it as the honeymoon phase. Like eventually, like, yes, you still want to be with that person and you grow and things can become beautiful and there's newness all the time. But that initial like joy of, oh, I just married this person, like even that has an end to like feel super exciting. So I think, you're like, that is applicable to literally everything in life. So it's really depressing if that's what we're just like waiting for. And if we can just try to come back to the present moment, as difficult as that is, it's a lot more healing.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't feel fat, but we say that a lot. And I really would encourage you to dig into what you're actually feeling when you're feeling really like pissed off about what you feel in your body or see in the mirror. We all have fat on us, some more than others. That's factual, but like feeling that way is really like an internalized message. And I can think of sometimes when I'm just like having really high anxiety or just going through a hard time, I have a really hard time getting dressed in the morning because nothing I put on feels good enough for me to like leave the house in. I feel frumpy, even though my wardrobe, well, I buy clothes sometimes. So like my wardrobe's relatively stable. Some days I'm perfectly fine and happy and feel great. And other days I don't. And what didn't change was my clothes, but what changed was like my brain and what's going on with me. So if you can try and just name whatever it is, chances are you can kind of shift that feeling a little bit and just call it what it actually is so that we can deal with those emotions rather than just blaming it on weight like we do like every single thing in our culture.
Yeah. I like that one a lot.
I'll do another one. Also wear clothes that fit your body. So I am going to share something that I just did this week. I feel a little bit uncomfy about it. And I think one, like I'll call myself out on it just being constantly growing as a person and continually challenging any biases that we have. But after like this past year, a lot of my pants are tight. Like my hips and my butt are not the same size that I entered 2020 in. And that really made me mad because my body had been pretty stable for a while. And then all of a sudden, which is that it happens. And I'm not going to dwell on that part, but my point is, we're trying to work on saving money over here. We just moved across the country. And so part of why I was infuriated is because I didn't want to spend money on buying new clothes because I also have not had a consistent workout routine all throughout COVID. And I have a feeling that when I find like my groove with joyful movement again, it's possible that my body shifts. I don't know, but it's like I don't want to have to every 3 years when I change habits have to change my wardrobe. And I think everyone can relate to that. Like that's crazy. So I was feeling really frustrated and I decided to go to the Goodwill this week just to see like what they had, and I found a couple pair of pants that were $10 a piece, and I felt so much better about that because then I wasn't squeezing into pants that like technically still fit but I just felt awful in because they weren't comfortable anymore, and put something on my body that felt comfortable regardless of like I don't know where my body's gonna go in the next year, but I have some pants that I can like fit in, and that's like what we need to do for ourselves. And my point about going to the Goodwill is like we can make that work. Like it's not an ideal situation. Clothes do give us a good bit of leeway, and if we can just get at least a couple of pieces, like even to appease yourself like in the moment to like calm the heck down, I think that's just like an invaluable thing to do, and you don't have to spend a fortune to do it.
Yeah. I'm glad you shared that. Were you going to say something else?
No.
Okay. Yeah, to kind of piggyback off that, I think like something you can implement is like stop shopping for your future body and shop for like the here and now body. And I have an example since you're sharing things. Someone had given me like hand-me-down pants, I want to say like maybe a year and a half ago, that were like really nice, like a really nice brand. And I was like, I would never buy these for myself. So the person was like, do you want them? And I was like, yeah, I'll take them. I was like, what size are they? And they were like a size smaller than like what I was at the time or what I typically am. And so I still took them because I was like, I mean, they're super nice. Like maybe one day I'll fit in them. And I think like subconscious, I actually realized this 2 weekends ago when we were cleaning out the guest room, because they've been sitting in our guest room. We have like a drawer because that's where like Landon keeps all of his clothes because we don't have any closet space. And so I have the closet in our bedroom and he has the like drawer in the guest room. And I like had forgot, like I had been keeping them in there because I think like subliminally my mind, like even a year and a half ago when this person gave them to me, I was like, oh, I'm going to say like eventually, like I'm going to work towards fitting it, like fitting my body for these clothes. And I kept them, even though I knew like it's a size smaller than what like I typically am. I just was like, they're super nice. Like I don't know. I don't really like know why I saved them. I think it was just because I was like, I want to fit in them. And I pulled them out the other week when I was cleaning out and I like looked at them and I like threw them out because I was like, I've been keeping these to try and like subconsciously hope that my body would fit into these like pair of pants that are too small for me and I'll probably never fit into. But I had been keeping them in the guest room and I like didn't really even remember about it until I was like cleaning it. But I was like, yeah, I think that's why I took them, because I was hoping that one day I would be able to. And I mean, not that there's necessarily anything bad, I guess, with that, like, because our bodies always change and they were a super nice brand. So I was like, maybe one day, but I do think there was an element of me saving them to kind of like check in later down the road and see like, oh, let's see if my body fits. And I looked at them and I was like, I'm not even going to put them on because like, I don't want to enforce that like thought process that I had.
Yeah.
So I threw them out.
That's awesome. I think like it's hard to see your body change, obviously. And
Yeah.
I'm sure at some level it took me a while to like go out and buy bigger pants. And I can use the excuse of not wanting to spend money all day, but like I know part of it was just being irritated that my body had changed like so suddenly. And I share that like just to kind of call us out collectively, because it's really easy to make excuses, but I am quite sure that if we have any of those feelings and there's an item of clothing that we pass by every single day, somewhere deep down in there, that's like gnawing at you. And it's not something I'm thinking about all the time, but like when you're trying to do life and you're feeling physically uncomfortable in your clothing, it's just very distracting and it's unnecessary, because the thing is like, I'm not in a place where I'm actively trying to shrink my body, and I haven't in a very long time. So like that was very stupid to not just buy clothes that fit, because I wasn't going to do anything about it, because that's not where I'm at in my relationship with food and exercise in my body. And so it was like, it's just one of those lingering things, because there's so much like from diet culture and having had an eating disorder. It's just like, it's crazy to me, like the things that still come up for me that I'm like, what the heck is this? So yeah, if you're using an item of clothing to define your worth, it's not just the scale that does that. We can use body checking and our like quote unquote skinny clothes, and none of those things are going to be positive for you. So if there's even 1% of you that cares about it, I would move along.
Yeah. And to add to that really quickly, because we're talking about like, okay, a lot of times like in fitness, we'll tell people to like not focus on the scale, like to not focus on that number, but there is a shift I see a lot. And I even used to like use this when I was still like, yeah, don't use the scale. But like, I still was like in the early stages of like all this work that we like both are doing and we talk about on the podcast. A lot of times like fitness professionals will ask a client like, okay, well, disregard the scale. Like, how are your clothes fitting? And that's like a way that they'll help clients measure progress, to stop focusing on the scale, which, okay, like that can be a tool to get you to stop focusing on that number. But I think it's like a double-edged sword, because with that, that can also turn into like another obsessive way of body checking, and like, okay, so you're not stepping on the scale every day, but like you might be going in and trying on that one pair of pants every day that you're trying to fit into that still aren't fitting. And so kind of like on the same side, the like mentality of like, okay, well, once I fit into this, like then fill in the blank, whatever you think you're going to achieve once you fit into the pants, which can like make you feel like a failure if you never end up fitting into them. So just like any fitness professionals who are listening, like just kind of be careful with the wording. And like, even if you have like well intent with like the whole like, well, how are your clothes fitting, like that can still be a way to push someone into like an obsessive controlling behavior if they like just simply switch from like obsessing over the scale to like obsessing over fitting into these pants.
Yeah, and also, like, I can say this from experience of using that statement as well, because I worked in an environment where there was really high pressure to keep people coming, and you don't want to make those people mad or think you can't help them. So it's a real nice, easy thing to say, "Oh, how are your clothes fitting?" Um, because it's just you can push it off. It's like, I am not failing at helping you lose weight, which we all know is the majority of the reason that people seek out dietitians and personal trainers.
Yep.
And just push it off onto something completely different. And like, that's kind of gross, because it is literally perpetuating the same exact thing. And it's also like, I was reading something earlier today talking about how Slim Fast just introduced a keto version, and it's like, if this wasn't working like for your mother X number of years ago, like it's never going to work. And that's the same thing. Like, we can push it off to this next thing and this next thing and this next thing and make all these excuses and blah blah blah, but it's like we're still perpetuating fat phobia and the thin ideal, and we don't actually have the ability to long-term change our bodies necessarily. So and when I like, I'm just gonna always say this when I say like necessarily to that, just because some people's genetics like will allow them to look the way that our culture says that they should, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing anything different. And that was another point is that I had written on here, was trying not to like judge other people and yourself based of what they look like, because our DNA is going to play a role in that. Our health status is going to play a role in that, in the sense of like, you could be, they talked about in the book, like wishing you looked like someone who has cancer. And also we make assumptions about people in larger bodies that they're overeating or not exercising, and you cannot know that by looking at someone.
Right.
So just trying to get out of that habit is really helpful, just for body respect all around, because comparing yourself is not going to help, and it's not very nice to do that to other people if you care about that.
You want to keep going with yours? Because I think I shared mine, and then everything else you added was what I would have added to my list.
Okay. So practicing self-care is a huge way to practice body respect, and in this sense especially, like pampering your body, like with, you don't have to like go spend a lot of money to do it, but like massage, like taking time to exfoliate, like moisturizing, doing your nails, like just wearing some cozy clothing and cuddling up, like just like pampering your skin that you're in. Like those kinds of things that really just show your body some TLC, in addition to just baseline self-care, which I think was addressed like when we talked about the definition of body respect. Find a mantra that resonates with you and say it over and over and over. We kind of touched on that earlier, of just like reframing, but if there's any kind of positive or neutral statement about your body, that you, or bodies, or what you want to believe one day, and just keep repeating it. We talk about that all the time on here. If you are not familiar with why the BMI criteria is problematic, I would really encourage you to do some digging into that. I'm so frustrated of hearing like that weight loss is for health. We touched on this with Health at Every Size, but like most people are not using that. It's a cover up word to phrase it as a code for weight loss, and just reframe it. If you catch yourself saying things like that, it's like, I don't want to add shame to your life if you are guilty of like these things, but like just catch it. Have someone hold you accountable to it if that's helpful to you, but just work on reframing. That's a huge thing with that, other than the tangible action items that we shared. Also, for anyone that didn't see it, there was a tweet that went viral about a little girl who was trying pants on and they didn't go up over her thighs, and she said something along the lines of her thighs being like too powerful for the pants. And I think that energy right there is like the epitome of body respect. And I'm just so happy for that girl, and I hope that she can carry that and that we can all take something from that, because that is really one of the most powerful things I've read about healing in a very long time. I think that touched a lot of people in a positive way.
I love that. I was like, go girl. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. She was reframing, being respectful of her body, putting herself as something more important than an item of clothing, like all of the things. I just absolutely love it. Is there anything else on your mind?
I don't think so.
Okay, so this was the 8th principle, and there's 10. So we're almost through this series. Thank you guys for spending so much time with us talking through this, because we talk about intuitive eating all the time. So this is really important to really like take a deep dive into why we care about it. Make sure you check out Jenna's app, Level Up Fit, if you have not. Follow her on her Instagram page for all the things. She's constantly explaining how things work and sharing her workout tidbits per usual. All the amazing things that we all love Jenna. Well, part of why we love Jenna. But at Jenna Fit, and you can find me at Dietitian Dani Cass, and then of course our shared Instagram page is at FitFueledFree. We have our Gmail account, fitfueledfree@gmail.com. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, send us an email. Slide into our DMs, any of those good things, and we look forward to talking with you guys next week. Thanks so much.
Bye, guys.